they weren't hanging, they were all just stacked on top of each other, and the furniture was on top of the Persian carpets. So when you came into class, you wanted a tall stack. And because there was no such thing as yoga mats in those days. I mean, when you said, I'm going to a yoga class, people thought you were going to a yogurt class. That's how unaware the world was. So we would take all of the furniture out and put it in the parking lot, and then we would do yoga on these carpets. And somebody walked up to Yogi Bhajan that first night, my first class, January 10th, 1969, and hands him 2 grapefruit. And he looks at the grapefruit, and you can't do anything with 2 grapefruit because you don't have a free hand. So you have to get rid of one of them. And he looks at these, and he looks over at me, and then he looks at these, and he looks over at me, and by the second or third time he glances over at me, I start to get uneasy. And without much of a back motion, he just tosses it like that. And I, in reaction, put my hand up and catch it, like, oh, like this. And he screams, "Look at that!" And I'm going, what have I gotten myself into? I thought this was yoga. And I look at it, and he says, that's the size of the world when seen from the eyes of the soul. Can you see yourself on it? Could you see yourself on a world that is this big? Wouldn't even register, would it? But you're there, but you can't see yourself. And I said, no. He said, then why do you believe that your soul is concerned about your problems? If through the eyes of the soul you're not visible, how visible are your challenges? Not visible to the soul, are they? So there is no relationship between what goes on in your world and that soul. So don't think that, my soul this and my soul that. You don't actually have a soul. You're powered by soul. You see those buses that go up and down the streets? They say powered by natural gas, CNG, compressed natural gas, yes? Does that bus own the natural gas that it's using? Does your computer own the electricity that it's using? Have you ever seen those little tiny red bugs? Little tiny, tiny, tiny red bugs that you sometimes see on something, and you know it's a bug because it's a dot that's moving. You either know it's a bug or your eyes are gone nuts, right? Like maybe 1/20th, 1/50th the size of an ant, right? How big is this room to that little red bug? Is it even measurable? Can the little red bug sitting on the floor in this room get a sense of the room? Can an ant in your house get a sense of the extent of your house? What is the difference in the idea of space and time between you being in that house and that ant being in that house, or you being in this room and that little red bug being in this room? What is the difference between the time-space relationship between the two of you? Uncomparable, right? Correct? Uncomparable. To you, this room is a few feet wide and a few feet long, and you can cross it in a matter of a few seconds, correct? To you, your house is however many square feet it is, and you can walk through it in a matter of moments, correct? To that ant, your house is the universe. And it probably couldn't ever completely cover your whole house, could it? What measurement is there beyond us? When we think of this vast universe, we think we have it figured out. But this is one universe. How many are there? That's not an answerable question. Because beyond the universe is the collection of universes called the multiverse. Most people don't even go there because they even think that the planet Earth has been alive for X number of years, 13.8 billion years, and that this is like a unique setting. In the massive, massive, infinite nothing, this which is known in Sanskrit as Om, sometimes spelled A-U-M, Om. It's actually where the word Amen comes from in Christianity and Amen in Judaism. This is also what means Allah in Islam. That is infinite nothing, which is the non-gendered parent of everything. Pockets of that infinite nothing, as a shift takes place in infinite nothing, pockets begin to form as something. And that something, the birth of something, is called Om. And that's why we chant Om Namo Gurudev Namo. We're taking ourselves back to that birth of something. And the first birth of something is tension, pressure, stress, and friction. Because light is born from friction. Because light is born from heat, heat is born from friction. Friction is born from tension, pressure, and stress. So before there's any matter, there's tension, pressure, stress, and friction, and after tension, pressure, stress, and friction, the heat forms light. The light begins to cool, and the cooling of the light particleizes into matter. Now this is a very, very simplification of a very complex process. And the whole purpose of this is to create a reunification of the consciousness that is being born, known as spirit. And that spirit, or consciousness, is powered by the universal nothing, which is soul. The universal nothing, which has the potency of something. You're a point of reference. I'm a point of reference. And in this moment, we use our 5 senses to give us a description of 3 dimensions, and then we produce a memory which in fact creates the 4th dimension, which is sequential time. And we are, in the midst of all this, making up stories that are being passed around over centuries as to what is the meaning of life, none of which is real. Meaning of life in today's world is to get a good job so you can get a car. 500 years ago, was that the meaning of life? Were you to get a good job to get a good car 500 years ago, even 150 years ago? So the idea of the meaning of life has nothing to do with the meaning of life. Life is to open the limitations that we are gifted with in these bodies, like our granddaughters and our grandsons and our children and our mothers and fathers and friends and everyone, to open up the limitations that the 5 senses give us in only being able to perceive these 3 dimensions and then memorize them to produce time, which is some past and an anticipated future. To break that code so that it's not about the 3 dimensions. What can I achieve in the 3 dimensions over this many years of life? That has nothing to do with the meaning of life. That's just the meaning of this physical event known as life on planet Earth. But you've got to break beyond that. And the only way to break beyond that is to come out of the influences of that. Because this planet Earth is just our current mirror. What we are is we're this, what we occupy rather, is we occupy this what is called a pranic lens. Your physical body is made up of prana. Prana is what comes from Ong, because Ong is producing matter, and prana is producing life in that, or living matter. It's an extra twist. It's where the Vesica Pisces becomes the yin-yang. That extra twist